National Geographic Kids' Rosa Parks, written by Kitson Jainka. Who was Rosa Parks? Can you imagine a world where white children could ride a school bus every morning, but black children had to walk? Can you imagine a world where black people couldn't drink from the same water fountains as white people or sit with them on a city bus? This world was real, and it happened in the United States. Some white people felt they should be treated better than black people. Segregation laws were used to give more rights and a better life to white people. Rosa Parks helped change these unfair laws by thinking and acting. She stood up for herself and others her whole life. In her own words, "If I did not resist being mistreated, I would spend the rest of my life being mistreated." Growing up, Rosa Parks was born as Rosa Louise McCauley on February 4, 1913, in Tuskegee, Alabama. She lived on a farm with her parents and grandparents. She was a small, quiet girl. She loved to read nursery rhymes and fairy tales like Little Red Riding Hood. She also helped take care of her little brother, Sylvester. Rosa's grandparents were born as slaves. They taught her that all people deserve fair treatment. When Rosa was a child, slavery was over. But white people still had more freedom than black people. One day, when Rosa was 11, a white boy pushed her. She pushed back. The boy's mother told Rosa she would go to jail. Rosa stood up for herself. She told them that she didn't want to be pushed. That's a fact. To help her parents pay for school after 6th grade, Rosa cleaned classrooms in the afternoon. In her time, when Rosa was a girl in the 1920s, many things were different from how they are today. Transportation. White people and black people paid the same price to ride the bus, but they didn't have the same rules. White people could sit up front, but black people had to sit in the back. Money. A chocolate bar cost 3 cents. Today, it costs about $1.35. U.S. events. In 1920, women were allowed to vote for the first time in U.S. history. Toys and fun. Children played games like marbles and kick the can, which is similar to hide and seek. School. Many black children in the southern United States went to school only 6 months a year because they had to work in the fields to help their families. For the same reason, most black children didn't go to school past the 6th grade. Standing up for civil rights. When Rosa was 19 years old, she married Raymond Parks. They lived in Montgomery. She got a job as a seamstress in a department store. She sewed clothes to fit customers. Rosa Parks also worked to spread the word about civil rights. She attended meetings, rallies, and marches. She taught young people how to stand up for themselves. She helped people who were hurt by those who did not believe in civil rights. Standing up for civil rights was not easy, but Parks never gave up. That's a fact. Between 1945 and 1955, some Montgomery bus drivers wouldn't let Parks ride because she had a habit of refusing to give up her seat to white people. A seat on the bus. On the night of December 1st, 1955, Parks took the bus home after work. She sat down in a seat in the middle of the bus. After a few stops, the bus grew crowded. The driver asked Parks to stand so a white man could sit. She thought about the unfairness she'd faced all her life. She felt she had as much right to sit in the seat as anyone else, no matter the color of her skin. Parks looked the driver in the eye. In a quiet voice, she answered, "No." She must have been scared. Black people had been arrested for refusing to give up a seat on a bus. Some had even been hurt or killed for doing the same thing. People on the bus, black and white, feared what would happen. In her own words, "I didn't even know if I'd get off the bus alive." The bus driver called the police. The police arrested Parks. At her trial, the court found her guilty of breaking a state segregation law. She was forced to pay a fine. Word spread about what had happened. Parks' act inspired people to stand up for fair and equal treatment. In her own words, "People always say that I didn't give up my seat because I was tired, but that isn't true. No, the only tired I was tired of giving in." That's a fact. When the police officer told Parks he was going to arrest her on the bus that day, she replied, "You may do that." Black leaders asked people to protest unfair rules by taking part in a bus boycott. A young preacher named Martin Luther King Jr. made a speech. He urged people to stick together. It was not easy for people to get to work in other places without the bus, but people kept the boycott going. It lasted more than a year. Finally, the Supreme Court ruled that everyone had the same rights on buses. 7 cool facts about Rosa Parks. 1. Parks was not the first black person to refuse to give up a seat on a bus, but her actions sparked the famous bus boycott that helped change unfair laws. 2. Parks was part Native American. 3. In Montgomery, Alabama, you can visit the bus stop where police arrested Parks. 4. In 2012, President Barack Obama sat on the bus Parks was riding when she refused to give up her seat. The bus is on display at the Henry Ford Museum in Detroit, Michigan. 5. Today, a statue of Parks stands in the U.S. Capitol building in Washington, D.C. 6. When Rosa died in 2005, bus drivers in Montgomery and Detroit honored her by reserving their front seats. 7. Many people call Parks the mother of the civil rights movement. Courage. Parks paid a price for protesting. After her arrest, Parks and her husband lost their jobs. Angry people threatened them. Finally, in 1957, they left Montgomery and moved to Detroit. In 1965, Parks took a job with a black congressman named John Conyers. For the next 20 years, she worked in Conyers' office. Parks continued to stand up for civil rights. She attended meetings and peaceful protests. She even helped black people fight unfairness in other countries like South Africa. Remembering Rosa Parks. Many people know about Parks' life because she refused to give up her seat on the bus that day in 1955. But now you know she spent her whole life standing up for fair treatment. Rosa Parks died on October 24, 2005, at age 92. After her death, she was given great honors, like the ones presidents and soldiers receive. That's a fact. In 1996, President Bill Clinton awarded Parks the Presidential Medal of Freedom.